And as you know, if you listen to this show a number of times, you know that we are all about having conversations that support what it means to be a smart and successful author today. And one of the topics that is one of my favorite is about platform building. So many authors that we speak to still, they have such a powerful message and, really, really great techniques and ways that they explain them. But when it comes to how to be found, how to stand out, among the crowd, there's a lot of work that comes into play around platform building. And so I'm really excited today to have on with us an expert in this field who's going to really help us understand what does it really mean to be building a platform, right? What does that look like? What does that mean? How can we be successful with it today? So I'm excited for this conversation and excited that you are here. Let's get started.
You're listening to The Author's Leverage. You've written a book, you got it published, and you know you can make a much bigger impact with it than you already have. Maybe you're in the process of writing and publishing and want to be smart about how you help others and make more money while doing it. Welcome to the Author's Leverage Podcast, your guide to building a profitable business and changing more lives with your published work. This is the #1 show that brings you tips on making you a more successful author from the very best experts around every week. Our mission is to help you blast through the noise and get you clear on your path to success as an author. You'll be equipped with practical tips and insights from host Parshel Tashi and her featured guests, and you'll leave each episode more excited, more confident to get that dream authorship life that you deserve. So sit back, relax, and get ready. We're about to get real. We're about to clear. And from here, the sky's the limit. Here's your host, a former school teacher turned creative media entrepreneur and now founder of the Author's Leverage, Parshel Tashi.
Yay. And joining me today is Juliet Clark. And again, we're talking about platform building today. And Juliet Clark, she has been featured on ABC, NBC, Fox, and Market Watch as a recognized expert in the publishing world. She is a dynamic and sought-after speaker and podcaster who has spent the last 20 years helping authors, coaches, speakers, and small businesses all over the world publish and drive their books to bestsellers. Her podcast, Promote, Profit, Publish, helps entrepreneurs understand how to use great tools in the coaching and small business spaces. So thank you for being here, Juliet. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Author's Leverage.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And you've spent 20 years in this field, 20 years. And I can only imagine just for you getting started and, what you're observing and seeing today. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into this space, and share, the first big question I have is like, what is the biggest difference that you see now, like in a span of 20 years in this industry?
Wow, loaded question. So I started out of college in publishing, traditional publishing, and I went on to work with Chiat Day Advertising. So strong publishing, strong marketing background. And in 2007, I went through a really ugly divorce. Look at this. She's like, that's not what I expected to hear. I went through a really ugly divorce and, kids were going back and forth. And suddenly I had time to write that mystery novel that I'd always wanted to write. And when it came time to publish it, I thought, I'm going to try this new self-publishing thing because that's, really when it picked up steam was 2007, 2008. And I hired a company and I got into it. And I was like, I just, from my publishing experience with traditional publishing, I didn't think that self-publishing world was serving authors at all. It was more about their profits and what they were doing, and the things they were selling were not helpful. So after a really bad experience with them, my second book, because I had even more time on my hands, I learned and learned how to self-publish and started building the platform the way that I thought it should be built. And, social media broke onto the scene about the same time. So, all of a sudden there was a new thing that I had to learn and master that I never had from my traditional days. And so by my third book, I had built a following on some relatively bad mystery novels. Like I wouldn't even recommend you read my books. They were so bad at the time. But by I sold over 25,000 copies, and there was a guy in the town I lived in who had this book, Raw Raw, and people were going to his events, but then they couldn't figure out how to publish the books. So they were bringing me the books, we were building platforms, and that's really how all of this got started. At the time, I was selling high-end real estate, and I didn't even think about publishing it. I just kind of like the accidental publisher. But I saw a need and I said, you know what? I'm going to do this because this is what people really need, is to understand, how to build that platform, use the book as a nurture tool, and then build revenue on those products and services that they had.
100%. And just to clarify and bring understanding to that term, platform and platform building, can you explain what that means, what that is, and why it's important for authors?
Yes. So, first of all, if you go back to any basic campaign, online campaign, you start out with awareness. And if you're doing any sort of Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, if you've ever done Google ads, that anybody you hire is going to tell you, you start with an awareness campaign, you go into a nurture campaign, and then it's the revenue building. So, where we go with this, the platform building is actually the awareness campaign. And the problem that I see out there is most people write the book because they want to generate the revenue. They want more people, but the book is the nurture tool. So they've left out that audience building, that trust building, value building place where they can bring that audience to follow them, and then into the book that's the nurture tool, and then into those revenue generators that are the coaching products, the services, consultants, whatever it is that you do as an expert out there. So that is the platform. The platform is actually made up. We have a talk we give that is on the 8 stages of author platform building. And it starts with brand. So you need that brand. It works into content, which content is your trust builder. You need it. Right now, we're developing content, and look how easy it is, you guys. I mean, I know it's a lot of work on your end because it's a podcast, but that's your content builder, and you can repurpose that. People listen to you, they trust your advice. And then being able to transition that into social media. So now you're sharing your content into the building that email list, developing lead magnets that bring people into your email list. Because remember, at the end of the day, social media doesn't belong to you. So we've seen Mark Zuckerberg do several iterations, change algorithms where people have lost their own audience. So you need to bring them into the email list. And then adding power partners who celebrate your business, refer you, and also using the media in advance of your book. So all of those things work together to really give the most impact to your launch, which is the next phase of it.
Wow, it makes so much more sense just to see it as an awareness piece, because you have to have that as part of that campaign, or really any campaign. How are people gonna have that trust, know who you are, and even then want to make the next step, right? That there's that awareness piece that's so huge. So platform building is about that. And you mentioned podcasting, which has so many layers to it, because if you do it on video, then it can become audio, of course, and then it can become
Right.
written stuff. It could become social media excerpts. It becomes like a plethora of things. Are you finding that to be the what you recommend most authors do when it comes to just having something consistent? Because when you think about the platform building, I know that a lot of people are thinking about their time, thinking about, well, how much effort is this going to take? That sort of thing. I mean, that's such a concern. So how do you approach that conversation and advise still that there is a way that you can do it to be consistent with it? What do you usually recommend?
Yeah, I recommend that you take the modality that is easiest for you to be consistent. So, is that video? Is it like I love my podcast, your podcast? Talk about a repurposing boom. You can put it over on YouTube. So now you have a YouTube channel. consistently posting once a week. It goes out to all the podcasts. Mine, I don't know about yours, mine goes out to Roku TV, Apple TV. So it's repurposed in all those different ways. Mine is transcribed into a blog because as a teacher, as a former teacher, you know that you want to include all those learning modalities in there because people receive the information in different ways. So that's just the basics of it. Now we actually take that, we break it down into social media posts, we write articles, we have a monthly magazine. So now that those interviews are repurposed into articles for the magazine. So into social media posts, into highlighting other people. So once you create a good piece of content, the opportunities to repurpose are endless. So you have to keep that in mind too. If you can take even 20 minutes a week and produce something like this on a consistent basis, you have all the content you need to start building trust and value. And if I can speak to that for a moment, many people push back on the trust and value piece, and they'll say, if I give away all of my good stuff, nobody will hire me. And the truth is that probably 95% of the people out there will not take action on it. So it will lead those people to hire you because they realize that no matter how motivated they are, they need an expert to help them develop it. So first of all, it's the time. You have to make the time. And second of all, it's the don't hold back. Because the more value, the more trust. If you can provide someone in a call like this with an instant gratification tip that works, they're going to follow you because you just gave them something valuable that they could utilize in a really quick manner. So I should let
That's
you
huge.
talk.
It's a new day and age, really, where so much can come from really just focused effort and just I see it as just you making that consistent effort to keep the conversation going, to be in conversation about your subject matter. And it can be, of course, based on your book through different conversations, right? You have to really have something in play that's going to, to your point, be something that fits your modality and what's going to be the best one for you. So when we first talked, when we first met, there's something that you said to me and it stuck with me ever since because you said you just told an author recently, says, look, you're not going to get an ROI on your book.
Yes.
And I thought, whoa, like that's, it's an interesting statement. Like talk a little bit about where, why you said that and just your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So remember I talked about the things that I found in the publishing world.
Yes.
We are very transparent with our authors who are experts. You will get negative ROI directly from this book. So if you're someone who keeps track of your ROI on a project management basis, this is not your direct money maker. The money you put out, this is a nurture tool. Where you will see the ROI is when people read that nurture tool, they read that book and they say, Parshell is my person. Now I'm going to go buy that bigger program, product, or service. So I'm very upfront with people because a lot of really good business coaches will come in and say, they're looking for the ROI on the project. So I want to be really upfront with it. If you're someone like me or you out, you produce courses, there are hundreds of people who do what you do. But if I hire you, it's going to be because I've sort of stalked you. I've followed you. You've built a platform. I'm looking at this book. I like your personality. I like your take. I like the way you present it. And so that would make me an even bigger fan and moving into now I want to hire her. I'm willing to go from that awareness to I'm going to drop $30 and find out what she's all about in that book to, okay, I'm ready to spend $35, $45, $55, $10,000 on the next step. And that's what it's really all about. When you write that book from the heart, people get to know, who do you work with? I work with action people. I am, as one of my clients just described me in the acknowledgments for book, I am the whip cracker. And but if you read a book that I wrote and you perceive that I'm a whip cracker, but maybe you are more of a nurturer, you probably wouldn't hire me. But if you're
Mhm.
that person who says, yes, I need that accountability, I need somebody who's going to be direct with me and tell me the truth, then that would be the logical next step. So it really does allow you to set yourself in a nurture space apart from your competition and allow people to understand that you're their person.
Wow. Wow. And that takes a lot too of making that distinction, right? And speaking to that specific person, connecting with those people in different ways. That's what I feel like it is. It's from that connection that these natural progressions and the next step of a relationship form. From them just being somebody that you know on the internet to someone that you're actually spending time with. They're actually saying your name and talking with you and giving you support. I mean, it's all going to be connected and really um, grounded by that sense of just connection and relationship building at the end of the day through value.
It is. And the other thing is too, is I know I've been in this longer, like with this direct business than you have, but it used to be back like people would just click and buy something that was $1,000, $2,000. They don't do that anymore. Too many people got burned. So
Hmm.
what this allows you to do is to sort of build that audience. Instead of building the old fashioned funnels that take you, click, 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 you have to find that balance as an author, coach, speaker, whatever you're doing with it, to what is that balance where I can attract, people are aware of me, I can attract,
Hmm.
but now it turns into an actual conversation. And like, I know you have big ticket items, I have big ticket items. Nobody's just going to click. So you have to figure out where in all of that you're going to build that transition where it goes from a click or a download into let's talk. And making that let's talk not about let's talk and I'm going to sell you something. Let's talk and get to know each other. I might not be
Hmm.
your person.
That's true. That's true. And the other thing that comes to mind is really thinking about the time, right? And having realistic expectations around this sort of
Mhm.
activity. So I would love for you to speak to that as well, because I think oftentimes it's easy to give up when you thought you would have 1,000 by tomorrow and you're still at whatever it is, right? What are really healthy? I say healthy because it can get kind of, it can go a little off balance, but how do you provide a really strong expectation that is manageable and something that you can still feel excited about over a period of time, and just having the expectation.
So marketing is always a guess at first.
Mm.
And when you start out, you build your avatar, your reader or buyer avatar, and then you start validating. And all of that takes time. We tell people a minimum of 6 to 12 months. And don't sell a lot during that. So imagine that this is like dating and Parshell meets me or whatever partner. They meet you at a restaurant for a date. You sit down at the table and they say, "Oh my God, you're amazingly beautiful. Will you marry me?" Would you say yes? Or would you look at your phone, run to the bathroom, call an Uber, get out your little MacGyver kit, disengage the emergency exit door, and run? That's what most people do. I mean, that's what I would do. I would run. But that's what most people feel like when you go right into the sell, sell, sell. So you have to do the aware, you have to do the nurture. All of that takes time. If you were to go out and hire somebody today to do Facebook ads or Google ads, they're going to tell you the same thing. We need 3 to 6 months to validate
Hmm.
and make them aware before we start the nurture campaign that leads to the sell campaign. So you have to think of it like that. When you rush in and you have those unrealistic expectations and you're getting a lot of rejection and no's, You really have to sit down and evaluate. Am I selling too soon? Am I too hardcore with my selling? What is it that I'm doing? I mean, for me, it was actually, I had to learn how to close better, because I sold real estate before this, high-end
Mhm.
real estate. So I could close a real estate deal in person, but it's a little bit different when you're just meeting someone and closing. So I had to learn some new skills
Oh,
around that.
okay.
And that's probably the biggest part of this, is building a platform has a really steep learning curve. So as far as, I've got to build a lead magnet, I've got to build a landing page, I have to get a copywriter, and I have to build content. That's a lot of stuff to learn and then execute. And that's why I love that you brought up the realistic expectations, because most people don't have them.
Because there's so much that goes into it, like you just said, copywriter, someone to help you with the creation of things, organizing, posting, there's so much that goes into it. So you're right. There's a huge learning curve. Is that, and I know that you support authors in a number of ways. So I would love to hear about what it's like to work with you and what sort of successes you've seen thus far in your work.
Well, I'm a whip cracker. No, I'm a, so I'm an action person. I don't like, if you and I have a call or you're coaching, it's not just, I'm going to give you an assignment. Like, I'm going to tell you how to do that assignment, where to go, what to do. We work with a lot of authors. We'll do a 1 or 2 month coaching package where it's, let's build the lead magnet. And it's literally, let's go do this series of 7 videos, or, whatever it is. That's the most recent one we did. Now we have to go back and copyright a landing page. We have to have it designed. We have to have your web designer create it. We need a drip campaign. So, most of the time I end up writing it and then having my client edit it, kind of change it to their wording a little bit. But so all of that takes time, and we're actually in action all the time. You're going to
Hmm.
get an assignment. This is how you do it. This is what you need to do. And you better show up next time with it done.
You better. We need a sound effect.
Exactly, exactly. But as part of that too, I'm really cognizant of the fact that people get overwhelmed and stuck. So if you're working with me, you have my text number, and I would rather you text me and say, I'm trying to do this, I'm hitting a wall, and I will literally say, you need to go do this, or I have an
Mm,
opening at 3, let's jump on and get this resolved real quick. Because
mm,
I don't want to see them lag behind on it either. Because I know once you get frustrated and overwhelmed, most of the time it's over. Like, you'll just stop. So it really is about pushing through, because that learning curve's so steep. And I think you have the same thing with the courses that you produce. People, how do I say it? We have a course called I Love Content, where it's actually a 1 month course, and we actually show people how to build their content. And the biggest thing, which I'm sure happens with your courses too, is all of a sudden people kind of get like overwhelmed stupid, is what I call it, where, like, I don't know what to put down on paper.
mm.
It's your own self blocking, because you have the knowledge. You just need to get down and do it. So it's getting you through those blocks too. And I'm pretty sure with courses, I worked with a coach back in 2016, and I did the same thing. Like, oh my God, what if, I don't know. I just, my mind was blocking it. So, um, and you probably know this. There's a lot of, I guess that's sort of a writer's block. Would you call that writer's block?
I suppose so. It definitely
Yeah.
feels like a block. It's just totally, it's an inner conflict. Totally.
Yeah, it is. So I always attribute that to, it doesn't matter. I get sort of spiritual about it from my own experience. It's sort of like God or universe, whoever you use as a higher power, saying to you, hey, Juliet, you got some amazing stuff in your head, but I need you to heal something
Mm,
before we move you to that next level. I always
mm,
sort of attribute those blocks to that. Like, I've made you amazing, but I need you to kind of move it to the next level and heal something to be even more amazing.
Yeah. Wow. What do you feel are are there common areas that you would say need healing or need that attention? Any
I think
commonalities across the board, you know?
I think it's individual for every
Yeah.
person because, that spirituality and inner healing has to do with whatever holds you back, and I think all of
If
us
that's very
all of
specific,
us
yeah.
have our own obstacles that we have to get through.
100%. And it's, it's that common feeling, I think, of like not feeling good enough. Something that you're doing isn't necessarily up to par. It's not going to be good enough, whatever. And I think that that's one of the core things I know that I have, definitely struggled with at times when it's come to creating content and just, going about life, period. And so I think that at the root of all of those different triggers and opportunities that come up, really at the root of it is how we feel about ourselves and how, you know, how we're processing that and developing that day to day.
Yeah, it is. We actually work with Jen Koken. We send our clients over there for, if I start identifying imposter syndrome, because a lot of authors, I would say probably about a month, just a month to 2 months before the book actually comes out, I'll see them just melt. And I know right away I'm scared. This is a big step. What if people don't like it? There's all those what ifs that come up
Mm,
in your mind. And, sometimes you just have to clear them out and move forward. And it can be scary. It can be
yeah,
very scary.
yeah, 100%. That's why you talk so much about action. I mean, I think that's the key. Really, is the action is going to be what propels you forward, and a lot of times through those areas that really need our healing. It's like it's tied to some action as well that's going to be taken to really take your life in a different direction.
Yeah. I think every business owner out there to be a proponent of personal development because you can't make improvements in your business without improving yourself a lot of times.
100%, 100%. Well, Juliet, this is such a good conversation. I know I can always talk a long time about that and just, mindset and spiritual growth and personal growth, because I think you're right. It's so directly tied to entrepreneurship. And I remember thinking to myself, where somebody actually told me, it says, when you jump into entrepreneurship, it's really, just time to focus on you. There's going to be so many things that come about just in your own personal growth as a person, as a human. So I love that. Please, I would love for you to share as well where people can reach and contact you and connect with you further. I know you have a lot of really exciting things that people can access that are tuning in. But yeah, if you would share just what your last parting words of advice would be to the listeners, and then where folks can connect with you.
So, in this journey of building a platform, always keep in mind that a click is not a relationship. So, be cognizant of how many clicks it takes to build with you, to actually build a personal relationship, because that's your goal in it. People can find me. You can email me at juliet@superbrandpublishing.com. We have a free magazine you can go grab, breakthroughauthormagazine.com. And if you're somebody who's at the beginning of all this, we have a new course coming up. It's called Build Your Author Avatar. You can find it at buildyourauthoravatar.com, and it actually takes you through the market research you need to do to start validating and doing everything you need. So, whether you have books, courses, you're speaking, whatever it is, it's a really deep dive into probably what is the first step of building that awareness audience is understanding who they are and how to connect with them.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Juliet. And I highly encourage anyone listening to connect with Juliet and see what she's up to. This amazing things that she has in place, and it's really backed by true industry experience and somebody who just genuinely cares. Like that's what I really appreciate about you. So, thank you for being here. And one last question before we jump off.
Uh-oh.
That is, what is your one word? So, if there was one word from Juliet to the rest of the world as a message, what would that one word be?
Oh gosh, always be winsome. That's why I named my company. You know, that's
Hey,
winsome is my word that describes me and the people I work with.
winsome. Wow. I love it. I love it. thanks again for being here. And I appreciate so much that you have contributed today and just how you're helping authors. It really is inspiring. And I love just your energy and how you present and communicate. So thanks for sharing with us today. And for those tuning in, thanks again for being here. And we will see you again next time.
Thank you.
You've been tuning into the Authors Leverage podcast. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our latest guest appearances and receive the best strategies on successful authorship today. And be sure to connect with us and with today's guests using the links below this episode. If you're interested in turning your bestseller into a premium and profitable online course, head on over to our website and schedule a call with us today. Until next time, remember, publishing creates credibility, but products create cash. You can repurpose your book as a learning experience to make the impact and the income you want as an author. We'll see you